Hello and welcome to another session of Office Hours. My name is Adrian. I am the CEO and founder of Groundhogg, and today we're going to be talking about cron jobs. We've actually added a significant number of people to our community in the last few days. A lot of people from the Buddy Boss community, so I want to first of all welcome everybody who is coming from Buddy Boss and has joined us. There are several setup steps to Groundhogg, and probably the most confusing and complicated of which is one that unfortunately we just can't control, and that is cron. So we're going to be talking about exactly what it is, how it works, and what you need to do about it. This is Office Hours number 50, which means we've almost been doing this for a whole year. In 2 weeks it'll be officially 1 year of Office Hours, so that's super exciting. So make sure that you're sticking around for every single Office Hours that we do. This session is being recorded and will be posted to both YouTube as well as our Groundhogg Academy website. So if you're commenting, just please be aware that anything you say will be recorded and later posted so we can have some evergreen material that we can share with our audience. If you have questions, we break this session up into two periods. Number one is we take questions about today's topic, which is cron. We also have Jesse in the comments keeping track of all of the questions that are being posted that we can then take care of at the Q&A session or Q&A part of the call, which happens a little bit later. So if you have non-cron related questions, keep them or just go ahead and post them, and we'll be able to take care of them towards the end of the call. We won't be able to get them to them right away, but trust me, we will. So for those of you who do not know, we did a webinar last week with Buddy Boss, and I think it went really, really, really well. There was a lot of value inserted into that call. So the replay is available on Buddy Boss's Facebook page. So if you want to go watch the replay of that, you can go ahead and check out the replay, and I just posted the link right there in the chat for you to use. We talk about how to decrease login abandonment, create an onboarding funnel, and a few other neat things that you can do with Buddy Boss and Groundhogg. So you can go check that out. Link in the chat. We have a new course. Thanks to Will Middleton, who recorded this one for us. It is pretty awesome. It allows you to, or will help you create a funnel that will generate more 5-star reviews for you, and you can set this funnel up in less than 45 minutes. And it's also super vanilla Groundhogg, so that means that you don't need any extensions. So if you're just using the free version, you can pretty much get away with it, and it's just a really easy way to start collecting more 5-star reviews right now, if nothing else. Also, if you're an agency and you do a lot of implementation work, setting up a review funnel is probably the lowest hanging fruit that you can do, that you can implement in order to get a win. So if your customer already has, or if your client already has customers rather, you can set this up to immediately start getting a positive impact on their business. So this is available on Groundhogg Academy. Of course, as most of our courses, it is free to join, and just amazing content available there. So I always like to keep people informed about what we're working on and let them know what they can expect in future releases of our products. So if you came to last week's Office Hours, we hinted that we're working on a brand new funnel builder UI, and it's come a long way since then. We're consistently working on it, making it better so that we can make your funnel building experience better. So I'm going to give you a run through of what we currently have at the moment. So this is the new editor. It's this we're keeping with the drop down, the linear format of the funnels. We believe that it is one of the easiest ways in order to build marketing automation. And but we've lost the kind of like the editing panel, and it's just this really simplified flow here. Each step will be able to have their own delay instead of using delay or date or field timers. Each step will have its own configurable delay. We're completely phasing out timers altogether. You'll be able to click on this delay and you'll be able to edit it to your heart's content. You'll be able to choose a fixed delay, a date delay, or a dynamic delay. You'll be able to choose the date that you want to run on, between times, specific times. you'll be able to really just totally configure an epic amount of delay settings. So that's really, really cool. You'll be able to click on steps to edit them. So here I have an email step, and I actually have the email preview right within the step settings this time. If I want to change an email, it's going to actually open up this visual email picker instead of the drop down that we had before, and I will be able to search for an email. So I'll be able to just search for an email if I want one, and I can just click on an email and use it, and there, that email is going to update. The editing function is not available yet, but hopefully we'll be able to get to that soon. And once I picked my email, I can go ahead and save and close it. Once, and we just really went ahead and made the user experience for all of these a lot easier. So a lot of the steps you used to, or in at least the old funnel editor, you had to define the title of each step individually, no matter what the content was. But in this new funnel editor, the display title of the step is actually going to be dependent on some of the settings. So for example, we have these apply and remove tag actions. And instead of having to actually clarify the tags that we'll be applying or removing, it just says it right in the title. And the title updates whenever we choose which tags we want to send. So I'm going to only apply these two tags. And it is going to then dynamically change the title of the step in order to reflect those tags that were chosen. Same thing for the removed. There we go. If I am using the user registration step, same thing. I can remove roles, and it will update the title of the step. And if I add roles, then it'll add it to the title. So just great dynamic functionality to better provide you an all-encompassing picture of what's actually happening in the funnel without having to open each individual step. I can see that these tags are applied, these are removed, etc., etc. One of the really, really awesome advancements that we've also made is with the form editor. So if you're familiar with the Groundhogg form editor, it works. It's very similar to Contact Form 7. It's shortcode based, but that means you have to do a lot of manual editing and typing, and that's not really 2020 user experience. That was made in 2018. Editing technology has come a long way in 2 years, so we have taken it upon ourselves to make the form editing experience significantly improved. So this is going to be the new form editing experience. We have a live preview of the form on the right, and we have the fields of that form on the left. It's very similar to Elementor's editor if you've ever used it. So I can click on any step in order to open the configuration for that particular step. I can hide the label, I can show the label, I can change the placeholder text to whatever I want, I can change the title or the label of the field. There we go. So I can hide the label, show the label, make it required, unrequired. I can change the column width of the field dynamically. So if I want it to be a quarter size or I want it to be to 3/4 size, it's really up to me how I want to do it. I can make inline forms. We've just really improved the overall form editing experience, so we're really excited about that. All of the fields load dynamically. There's lots of embed options. So all in all, just an improved editing experience that we want to bring to you so that you can build forms faster and you can launch funnels faster. And at the end of it all, you just mark it active and it's good to go. So this is what we've been working on. There's a question Timothy's asking, when will this new update be available? We don't know. We're working on it as fast as possible. The biggest hurdle is that this new editor introduces an all-new framework for creating funnel steps, and there are lots of funnel steps in our various extensions, as well as third-party developer. So we essentially have to wait to launch this until all of those have been updated in order to be compatible with this new editor. We have to create lots of documentation in order to ship that out to our third-party developers like Colin Longworth and Woo Ninja. So there are a few hurdles before we can get this out to the public and get this in your hands to use it. But hopefully we'll be able to ship this by Q1 of next year. So the first quarter of next year is currently our expectation of being able to actually make this go live. So super exciting. I'm going to move on though, because this particular session of Office Hours is focused all about that cron, not to be confused with corn, which is a delicious barbecued food. So what the heck is cron? So in a nutshell, cron is the heartbeat of Groundhogg and WordPress in general. It's responsible for the scheduling and the executing of events or tasks in the back end of WordPress. Without cron, WooCommerce subscriptions wouldn't work. Without cron, scheduled posts wouldn't be posted on time. Without cron, just a lot of things would not work as they're supposed to. It's responsible for all of the background tasks that are handled within WordPress as well as within Groundhogg. So here is a high-level overview of how cron works. So we have a server, and this server, and I have cronjob.org here as an example, sends a request every once in a while, so our recommendation is 1 minute, to your WordPress site. WordPress will see if there are any events or tasks that need to be run. So again, scheduling or publishing of scheduled posts, the WooCommerce subscriptions, and of course any Groundhogg events like sending emails or applying tags or anything that's happening in the funnel. If there are any events that need to be run, well then they process them, and WordPress will process them. And if there are no events, then it'll just quit out immediately and nothing will happen. If you did not configure cron, so you did not configure a cron job in order to access your WordPress site, then none of that happens. If there are scheduled tasks in WordPress, they won't be processed, and they'll basically just sit in a queue waiting to be processed to never be processed. And if you have a cron job that takes a long amount of time between intervals, say half an hour or up to an hour, that means that events will only be processed on the hour, every hour, up to a period of 60 seconds. So that means anything that happened within that hour is not going to run immediately. So if within that hour someone submitted a form, well, that funnel is not going to send any emails to them until the hour rolls over and a new request is sent to WordPress in order to look and process any events. So we highly recommend that you use a 1 minute cron interval for the best performance, which means that every 1 minute WordPress is going to check if there are any events that need to be run, and then it's going to process those events accordingly. We highly recommend that you use cronjob.org, which is here somewhere. I highly recommend that you use cronjob.org to set this up. And we actually have a great video on YouTube that walks you through the entire process of setting up cron job with cronjob.org. And I just posted that YouTube video in the chat for you, so anybody who wants to go check that out, I highly recommend you go do that. So one of the questions I often get is, what happens when you scale and you want to use Groundhogg for hundreds of thousands of contacts? Groundhogg and WordPress can only process events at a certain amount of time. It takes computing time in order to send an email, so the more emails you have, the more computation time, and sometimes the number of emails that you send will outweigh the computation time for each particular event that needs to be sent. If that happens, there is a solution, and that's using our advanced cron system. And advanced cron enables something called parallel queue processing, and when you have this enabled, you can essentially set up multiple cron jobs to a special file that you can install in your site, and this will process events 2 times faster. So that way the processing time then becomes less than the number of events that you have that need to be sent out. We have a lovely article that explains all this and more on our help documentation site. Link just posted in the chat there for you. You can also just look up Advanced Cron in the help site at any time. Advanced queue processing essentially looks like this. So instead of sending one cron or one request to any specific file, you can set up multiple requests. So here I have one server sending a request to your WordPress site and another request also to your WordPress site. And essentially these processes work in parallel and will process their own set of events separately. So this one will take a batch of events that need to be sent, again, like emails or funnel events. And this request will do exactly the same thing, taking a different set of events in order to process. It'll both process them at the same time, therefore processing events twice as fast. So if you find that you're getting to a point where the number of events that you're sending out or the number of emails that you're sending out is greater than the amount of time that it takes to process a single event, then you can start to set up this process. If you need specific help with this, you're always welcome to reach out to our support team and we'll give you any other relevant documentation or help you with setup. So this is a single cron job. This is multiple cron jobs. Basically, adding an additional cron job decreases the amount of time that it takes events to process in half. And that is cron. So I'd love to hear if there are any questions about cron specifically. Go ahead and post those in the chat now. If there are no questions, I will open it up to the floor for general Q&A. So if you have questions that need to be answered, then go ahead and post those in the chat now. What I do is I repeat your question live so everyone in our audience can hear it, and then I go ahead and answer it to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it myself, I will point you in the direction where you will likely be able to find the most correct answer. There are a few questions that did come in earlier when I started the call. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to answer those first. So I have a question from Timothy Taylor. He asks, is there a way to integrate a Groundhogg funnel with Facebook pixel events? Unfortunately not. The Facebook pixel loads on the front end of the website, not in the back end. And the Groundhogg funnel is specifically designed in order to do back end stuff. So it all happens in the background of WordPress. The user never really interacts with the funnel except if they're like visiting a page or they're submitting a form. Totally possible to create a Facebook pixel event based on the submission of a form or when a page is visited, and that's not very difficult. However, if you're looking to create a Facebook pixel event for something like a tag is applied, that's not going to happen simply because Facebook pixel is for front-end tracking of events, while Groundhogg is totally back-end technology only. So hopefully that answers your question. I may not be totally right about this, by the way. This is based on my knowledge of setting up Facebook pixel events. If someone has a different answer or someone can point to an article that can track Facebook pixel events from the back end of WordPress, I'm more than happy to investigate that. So if anybody knows how to do that, go ahead and post that in the chat so I can have a look at it. But to the best of my knowledge, that is a no, Timothy. And I'd be interested to know if it's a possibility maybe in other CRM or marketing automation platforms, because if it is, that means there's a way, and then we can investigate that. Timothy, you have a follow-up question about gravity forms and Groundhogg. I'm not going to be able to tackle that on this call. And that's a little bit more technical and a little bit more case-specific. What you need to do is you need to open up a support ticket for that, and we can then investigate your technology stack and troubleshoot ourselves. That's not something that we're going to be able to tackle on this call. Louis asks, is there a file in which Groundhogg saves the acceptance of terms and conditions and privacy policy in order to submit a legal claim? Louis, if you could expand on your question, let me know what the case for that is. The terms and GDPR privacy policy stuff. If I open up a contact record, so there's a few things. So if you have GDPR enabled in your compliance area, So if you have GDPR enabled and you're looking at a contact record, there is a area here called compliance, and it will contain the date that they agreed to terms as well as agreed to privacy policy or gave their GDPR consent. This is really the only tracking that we do that they gave consent. We'll track the date on which they gave it, and that's available in the contact record. But there's no other file that is saved. We just essentially save the date that happened and show that here. So hopefully it answers your question. There's no file, Louis, but if you need the dates, then those are available here. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, give me a follow-up and I'll see if I can answer it a little bit better for you. Timothy asks, based on cron, is there a certain number of contacts that would be considered a tipping point for needing the advanced cron? No, not necessarily. It really depends on the speed of your website, the speed of your transactional email system. For example, if you're using AWS, that's a lot faster than using SMTP. So there's a lot of factors, but essentially, if you just see like a backlog of events in your event queue, then it might be time to implement advanced cron. But in the vast majority of cases, you're never going to need that. The only times that I've actually seen that need in the wild is someone who is using Groundhogg and doing broadcasts to like 400,000 people at a time. And that's really the only reason that I've seen someone actually need it. In the majority of cases, you're only ever going to need the regular WordPress cron system. Lorraine Watson has a question. Lorraine asks, when Groundhogg is installed, does ZenWP come with it, or do I need to sign up for ZenWP subscription? Does ZenWP take over sending all transactional emails as well? And does ZenWP work with sending form notifications, email, as well as being able to include emails in the 2CC BCC? Okay, Lorraine. So if you're using ZenWP, by the way, we no longer officially recommend it, simply because a lot of our customers had a poor experience, and we actually ended up making our own alternative to ZenWP. It's called Mailhawk. And we help WordPress users solve their email deliverability woes. You can sign up for Mailhawk directly through Groundhogg by going to the settings, the Groundhogg settings, and email. There's a button there that says connect to Mailhawk. But if you're already using ZenWP, then the answer to your to all of your questions, okay, no, not all of your questions, because the first question, okay. Groundhogg does not come with ZenWP. ZenWP is a third-party company. You have to sign up for a subscription with them separately. By using Groundhogg, you are not necessarily signed up for ZenWP, and you can use ZenWP without Groundhogg. ZenWP, like Mailhawk, will send all transactional and marketing emails from your website. If an email comes from WordPress, it will go through ZenWP, no matter what kind of email it is. And ZenWP does support form notifications, CC, BCC, and all of the traditional email headers. Also, for all of your questions, the same applies to Mailhawk. You can sign up for a Mailhawk subscription separately. Mailhawk will send all of your WordPress email, marketing, and transactional, and does support all of the CC, BCC, etc., etc. So hopefully that answers your question, Lorraine. If you have a follow-up, feel free to post a follow-up in the chat. Leonardo Gonzalez asks, can I integrate Groundhogg with Amazon SES? Absolutely you can. We actually have a quite extensive AWS SES integration right here. So if I open that up, we have a very advanced email integration for SES as well as SNS, which means you get email and text messaging if you have the SMS add-on. You can manage all of your sender domains directly from WordPress. You can send all of your test emails. You can monitor your activity. And you get to, of course, send both emails as well as text messages if you have the SMS extension installed. So the answer to your question is absolutely. It's a very robust integration. AWS, this actually has its own email queue, and it's the only extension that does, because AWS can support up to like 14 emails per second on the most basic plan. So it's actually the fastest email provider that we currently offer as an integration service. Hopefully that answers your question, Leonardo. Louis has a follow-up question to his original question about privacy policy and terms acceptance in the contact record. So your question is, how do you export this data, Louis? And if you have a legal claim going, then in order to export it, you would just either copy and paste it. So if you just want to go ahead and copy and paste that information into whatever legal document that you need, because other than that, you can just export the contacts and it'll contain the date of consent and stuff like that. There's nothing fancy currently going on in terms of exporting the consent data. Hopefully that answers your question. Matt Fraser says, if I understand you correctly, if we're using AWS, we will not need to set up a cron job. Yes, absolutely, you will need to set up a cron job, Matt, because the email queue for AWS, the AWS integration also runs based on a cron job. So absolutely, under no circumstances do you never not need a cron job pinging your website and making sure that scheduled events run. All the time, there's no circumstances where you will not need a cron job. You absolutely still need one, Matt. Timothy asks, can you explain the difference between marketing and transactional emails? Yes, absolutely. Great question. So marketing emails are typically, let's see. Let's show you. I'm going to see if I can find a great example of a of a marketing email just by going to my Gmail and finding one in the promotions folder. All right, let's see what we got. So here we have a promotional or a marketing email from Canva. They have sent me a newsletter with a bunch of images and lovely stuff. So we have links to stuff, we have images, it's marketing copy. Essentially, it's just a marketing email. This is a tactic in order to get me back on their platform and inform me of new updates. This is marketing. A transactional email would qualify as something like a password reset email. Which I don't seem to have any of to me. For some reason, all of these are Twitter notifications. Although I guess that will actually, this will actually qualify. So, no, maybe not. My stumbling is a result of, a lot of times it can be a really gray area. So here's an example of another transactional email. So say someone just signed up for a product or a lead magnet on your site. You could qualify the delivery of that lead magnet as a transactional email because they specifically asked for it, right? So if they specifically asked for the content that you're delivering one time, then you can qualify that as a transactional email. Stuff like password resets, account created emails, the initial onboarding email maybe would qualify. Marketing and non-transactional email material would qualify as anything that you're sending that they didn't specifically request. So stuff like promotional emails that are letting everybody know about a Black Friday deal, would not qualify as a transactional email. Form notification, so if they submit a form and they get a receipt of that, transactional. If they submit a form and then 3 months later you send them a broadcast email about this great deal that you have, promotional and marketing. So that is the difference. There is of course gray area in the middle. But one of the nice things in Groundhogg is that we actually have this drop down on the email editor that allows you to specify whether an email is marketing or transactional. Now, if the email is marketing, what happens is if they've unsubscribed or they have a non-marketable status in their account, then this email will not be sent to them. However, if the email is marked as transactional, the email will be sent to them regardless of their current marketable status. So it's helpful to send emails as people specifically request them while ignoring their opt-in status. This might qualify if someone signed up for, let's say, a mastermind call. They've opted out of your promotional stuff, but they still need to receive the reminders for their bi-weekly certified partner call. That would qualify as a transactional email so that they keep getting those reminders and they don't get mad when they don't get one and they keep missing them. That was a really long-winded explanation. Hopefully that makes sense. If it didn't, feel free to follow up. I'm going to go ahead and take extra questions, but I think this would actually make a good idea for a documentation article. So Jesse, if you're on the call with me, if you could make a note in order to write up an explanation of transactional versus marketing, that would be super helpful. Timothy asks, we need SMS integration with Groundhogg that supports two-way conversations. Unfortunately, there are no two-way conversation SMS integrations that we offer. However, if you're using the Groundhogg Twilio integration, if you're sending outbound messages through Twilio, contacts can still reply to that message and Twilio can take care of the reply. So Groundhogg will send out the message, but any replies will be handled by Twilio. So if you're looking for two-way, then you have to go down the Twilio route. Unfortunately, AWS SNS does not at this time handle replies for messages very well. It's really one-way communication only. So if you're intent on handling replies, Twilio is the one that you need. Matt Fraser asks, is it correct that once I install Groundhogg and configure it with my mail service, it will handle both my transactional and marketing emails? Yes, that is correct. Any email service, any of our email services, especially that you install, will handle automatically all of your WordPress email. That means password reset notifications. That means all of the Groundhogg emails, all of the transactional emails. Your one email service will handle both. So that is correct. Francis asks about the signed contracts extension. So is the signed contract saved in a local table we can query? We need to link the document ID to a user and provide access on demand. Yes, so the contracts are all stored locally in a specific and custom database table, which is publicly accessible via the Groundhogg database API. If you need, it is open source, so if you have it, you can open it up and look in it. We don't have any documentation on how to specifically query that table in particular, but it is publicly accessible via some methods in the core code. So yes. Is it encrypted? So the content itself is not encrypted. If you need it encrypted, that's certainly a use case. However, it's not encrypted in the database itself. And does it have an audit trail? I need a little bit more information about an audit trail, but basically the information that has is the date it was created, who it was created by, and essentially any of the merged information that you have in the contract itself. So hopefully that answers your question. The contracts extension is fairly simple. It's not. It's basically a low level. For low level usage. If you're doing like critical legal stuff, then maybe it's not the best selection. Maybe you need something like DocuSign. But if it's just low level stuff and you're not really necessarily worried about, greater implications, then it's totally good enough. Matt Fraser asks, do you have any plans to integrate with SignalWire? I don't know what SignalWire is. Let's have a look. I'm not really sure what this is. Basically, so SMS, phone. Yeah, so that looks interesting. No. Of course, you are more than welcome to request a integration with this service. although currently we are solely focused on improving our existing tools. And it's kind of where we're at right now. No more integrations for the foreseeable future, but really working through and improving greatly our existing our existing tools and our software technology via React, and just overall improving the funnel editing experience, and then moving on to the email editing experience, the contacts, the reports. Everything is going to be essentially Reactified in order to provide the smoothest, most awesome user experience that we possibly can. And then we're going to go back and look at integrations and feature requests and stuff like that. Leonardo, do you plan on having a monthly subscription to Groundhogg? No. Yearly subscriptions are what we offer. There's lots of reasons for that. Most of which is just the WordPress standard. Secondly, Groundhogg is rather support intensive. So we like to collect our, essentially the yearly cost of a license offsets the initial support that we usually have to do. So that's what makes financial sense. If we offered monthly plans, I don't think that we would be able to provide the level of support that we do. There's a lot of business reasons for only offering yearly plans. So no, we don't plan on offering monthly plans. So if you're holding out for a monthly plan, that's not going to happen, and which I'm sorry. Yearly plans are what we do. Matt Fraser asks, should I use a specific email address for sending emails from Groundhogg, and if so, what address would you recommend? No reply or marketing? Well, I certainly wouldn't put marketing or no reply in it. No reply is a great way to ensure you either end up in spam or promotions. I send all of my emails from info. That's just kind of like what we've done. However, I find that the actual best use is if you're like a solo operator and you're not kind of like organization level yet, send it from yourself. So choose like matt@domainname.com, because personal email addresses have way better deliverability in Gmail than other email addresses do. So I would send it from yourself if that is an option. Otherwise, I would just go with info. Definitely not no reply, and definitely not marketing. Personal or info. That is really like the two choices that I would recommend. Timothy asks, is there a way to move a deal from one stage to another within the pipeline? I only see the ability to create a new deal. Would like to automate the process of a contact deal from one stage to another. So here's the thing about deals and the pipeline and the funnels. No, it is not possible to move a deal in a funnel. The reason for this is that contacts can have multiple deals. And while they're going through a funnel, it is not necessarily known which deal you actually plan on moving. And because contacts can have multiple deals in a funnel, then it's simply not possible to know which funnel, which pipeline, which deal that is supposed to be moved. The only way to move deals is via dragging it and using the UI to do that, or if you're using the API. So if you're using the REST API. So that is kind of like the hard truth on that. It's just it's a technological impossibility based on the presumption that a contact can have multiple deals at a time and be in multiple pipelines at a time. If it was one pipeline and then one contact or one deal per contact, then you could do it, but that's just not the reality of how the pipeline works. So hopefully that makes a sense and answers your question. If you want to move contacts through a pipeline automatically, I mean, you could definitely kind of like hack something together using the API and maybe Zapier or the webhooks or something like that. I probably don't have enough time to go through that whole process right now. But yeah, hopefully it answers your question. It's probably not the answer you're looking for, but it's kind of just like a hard truth about how pipelines work. Lorraine has a follow-up to Matt's question about what kind of email address you should use to send email in Groundhogg. How do you handle the situation where the only email used is in Gmail? So if you're sending email from a gmail.com address, that's a no-go. You should only ever be sending email from your business domain name. Under any circumstances, do not use Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo, anything with that ends in .ru. All of those are surefire ways to end up in spam. That is because there are lots of systems in place, SPF, DKIM, domain authentication tools, that will basically say, did Gmail actually send this email? No, it didn't. Groundhogg on whoever's domain.com did. So you should be sending email from who you are, the domain name of your business. So Lorraine, hopefully that answers your question. Under no circumstances should you be using a gmail.com address. Use your business domain. You will have significantly greater results than you would otherwise. Okay, so there seems to be a lull in new questions, which is okay because I have a document that has questions asked in the group that I can probably answer during this call for everybody's benefit. Okay, so it looks like I've actually already answered most of these. Except for this one. But that's okay because we have more questions in the chat. So Leonardo asks, does WP Cron native configuration enough to work directly with Groundhogg without an SMTP service or something? You should set up the external WP Cron. The internal WP Cron is traffic based. So that means it only works if someone is actually visiting your site. So if it's the dead of night and your site is experiencing zero traffic, that means that cron will not be initiated, which means that no events are going to be scheduled, no events are going to be processed, which means no emails are going to be sent. So you absolutely need to set up an external cron because that will send a regularly timed interval to your website at all times of day, at all times of week, at all times of month, at all times of year, so that emails and events are always processed. The native WP Cron is not enough to ensure reliable service from Groundhogg or any other plugin in your WordPress website. LearnDash, Lifter LMS, WooCommerce, you name it, they all use it. Using the internal system is not enough to ensure reliability from those plugins. Set up the external one. It's not a huge load on your server like some people think it is. It's basically the equivalent of getting a visitor a minute. And a visitor a minute is like big whoop, right? So use the external cron system. It is there because it is tried, true, and tested. Use it, use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. Timothy says, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing with Groundhogg. It's amazing and it's opening up huge opportunities for us. Thank you, Timmy. I appreciate that. It's always nice to know that our work is appreciated, so thank you. If you want, you can go ahead and leave a review. Leave a 5-star review on our WordPress repository page. Reviews obviously help us get more money, more customers, which means more developers, which means more features that you want and love faster, like this beautiful brand new UI that we're working on for you. This is a result of an intense amount of work made possible by both customers as well as contributors. So if you want to contribute, go leave a 5-star review. Michael, can you answer that? Thank you. Sorry about that. Leonardo says, thank you, Adrian, for all your answers. You're welcome, Leonardo. So we're reaching the top of the hour here. We have about 10 minutes official of office hours left. So we're going to take our last few questions, and then we're going to start wrapping up. Timothy asks, thoughts on alternate WP Cron? The regular Cron wasn't working on our site, so we switched to alternate Cron, but we haven't been very happy with it. Follow the Cron documentation that we have on our help site. That is the surefire way to ensure that everything works. Alternatively, we have this cool thing, and I talked about it a little bit. It's called Advanced Cron. So if you go to Groundhogg Tools, there is a tab. It is called Advanced Cron Setup. What you can do is you can follow the instructions here in order to set up the advanced Groundhogg specific Cron, which operates outside of WordPress's regular Cron, WP Cron system. And this will probably work a little bit better for you. This is what enables parallel queue processing. Ugh, I can't speak. My throat's getting a little bit dry. This is what enables parallel queue processing. There's lots of documentation, lots of links here to help you out. So again, that's Groundhogg Tools Advanced Cron Setup. So if you're not happy with your alternate WP Cron, then use this instead. Louis asks, in this new release that you are working on, are you considering a more graphic email builder, not so plain text style? So going back to our new email builder. So there's, in short, no. We stand by the plain text, the plain text email editor. It's tried and true. It works. I have consistent 30 to 40% open rate. And anytime I use the advanced email builder, that open rate goes down, and that is just a cold hard fact of deliverability in 2020. So I stand by the plain text editor. That being said, the advanced email editor is going to get an update. It's going to get the same refresh, the same UI refresh, although most of the components will probably remain the same. Meaning you're going to have your image block, your text block, your button block, etc. And it's probably not going to get a whole lot more advanced than that, simply because we know what works and we know what gets great deliverability. So you're going to see UI improvements. So the actual editing and the constructing of the email is going to be a lot easier and a lot more user-friendly. But the actual framework and the components of that email are going to be a little bit different. Oh, I didn't even consider that. Louis, you may not be aware of the advanced email editor, which I actually have installed. Install. So for those of you who don't know, Groundhogg comes with a plain text email editor by design with just like the basic WordPress, what you see is what you get editor. This is what I use. I use this email editor because it works great. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It gets the email to the inbox every single time. It's also the most readable. It is the most friendly on all devices, and everybody loves it. So if you're choosing an email editor, use this one. And it comes with the free one, or with the free version of Groundhogg. This is the default, and this is the gold standard of email editor as far as I'm concerned. Okay? Simply because its deliverability is far superior than any other email editor. That being said, if you're not satisfied with creating stuff in plain text, we do have a more advanced email editor, and it's called the Advanced Email Editor. It comes in the Advanced Features extension. And it allows you to use a drag and drop interface. It comes with widgets, and it's still fairly simple. And that's because the really advanced ones like MailChimp and stuff like that, those just end up in promotions and spam. This is ensured to work across all devices: Outlook, Gmail, Yahoo, iCloud, iPhone, Android, We tested them all, and it just works really, really, really well. It comes with 3 blocks. You got divider spacer, an HTML block, text block, an image block, etc. So you can really kind of just do whatever it is that you need to do. You can edit it visually. You can edit it in HTML. And so this is the advanced email editor. So if you're looking for something a little bit beyond the plain text editor, this is available to you currently in our advanced features extension. However, I personally choose to use the tried and true plain text email editor simply because it works, the deliverability is amazing, and no one has ever emailed me and said your email is broken. And I think that has value in and of itself. Leonardo says the new release looks way better. Do you think so? I think it looks way better too. I just, sometimes I just come in here and I just click around and I look at it and I just change things just because it's so nice to do so. Like I can just go ahead and I can edit this form. I can go ahead and I can choose a new email, and it's just a really nice experience all around, and I'm really happy with it. And hopefully in 6 months this is going to be the reality for everybody using Groundhogg. So exciting stuff, exciting times. All right, we're at the top of the hour here. I'm going to start wrapping it up. If you need additional Groundhogg resources and you did not get your question answered on this call, there are ways that you can get help. So you can go to groundhoggacademy.io. Sorry, academy.groundhogg.io. We have courses there. We have a brand new course, which is our, I have to pull it up. We have our new Ultimate Review Generator funnel, which Will Middleton recorded from the Lifter LMS community. Super great stuff. So you can go ahead and check that out. We also have, of course, our Course Creators Essentials course. So if you're using LMS software, lots of great tutorials on how to implement Groundhogg with LMS. And, of course, our official Quick Start course you should go check out. If you are more of the sit back and relax kind of person and you want someone else to deal with the details, we have certified partners available. You can either message our page and ask for an introduction with a certified partner, or you can go to our certified partner directory and find a partner to work with yourself. If you have a colleague you think would benefit from Groundhogg, you are more than welcome to open up an affiliate registration or an affiliate account. You can go to affiliate area/registration to learn more about how to become an affiliate and earn 10% recurring commission for every sale. If you're not following us, you should be. You can follow us at GroundhoggWP, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. All great platforms and where we post updates and we talk to people and we just help. If you really enjoyed this call, and I think a lot of you did because we got a lot of positive feedback, then I would ask you to take 3 minutes. 3 minutes is all it's going to take at the end of this call. Hop on over to our WordPress.org repository listing and leave a 5-star review. It allows us to get more customers, which means more developers, which means awesome new features like this awesome new UI that's coming out, all made possible by you. If you have more questions and you didn't get your question answered on this call, I want to apologize. We only have so much time available. But you can continue to use the Facebook group. That's what it's there for. Post your answers. Jesse, our awesome support champion, is currently on call and in their Facebook group answering questions. You can message our live chat. You can @ us on GroundhoggWP on Twitter, or you can email us. We have several support email addresses, all valid ways to get in contact with us if you didn't get your question answered on this call. I want to thank everybody who decided to take an hour of their day out today. I know that all of us are super busy and we have other places we could be. So thank you. Office hours will resume 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day.